Live. I'm going to hit record because, well, I kind of have to. Welcome everybody to giving you something to talk about live TV. Sorry, I just had to mute something. Welcome everybody, giving you something to talk about live TV, just alive as I like to call it. My name is Melissa Krechler. I am your host. I'm an identity coach and spiritual teacher, but that doesn't matter in this episode because you can look that up after. Today, my guest host is Tracy Blehm, and I hope I said that properly.
You did.
And we're going to be talking about women's power and what it means in society versus what it means to you, because we want to know what it means to you versus what it means to society. So Tracy, I will let you introduce yourself while I go and share.
Excellent. Yes, so I'm Tracy Blehm. I have a wide and varied background. And the biggest thing that I found throughout my years and careers is watching women struggle to fit into certain molds, fit into certain expectations, certain titles, all of that kind of stuff. And I've seen people bend, staple, manipulate themselves into something, and then they're miserable. They are unhappy. And they take that home. I always see it as whatever we create at work, we end up taking that home, right? Like I remember my parents coming home from work and at the supper table, all they did is bitch about work. And, I'd noticed that happening at our dinner table. So my big goal is to help women break free of all of that so that they can come home from work and talk excitedly about what they've done, what they've created, who they've helped. And a lot of that is a mindset shift. And a lot of that is just letting go of trying to fit in, just really building your life in a way that works for you.
Absolutely. So for anybody joining live or catching the replay, please feel free to comment if you have any questions, if you have any, if you want to connect, whatever that may be, please feel free to hop on and chat with us. So women's power. I think that we're in a society today where all of us women or a good percentage of us women are trying to empower each other to be more. And I think that's a lot of what this episode is about, is creating the space and giving the freedom, giving each other the permission to not just be what society expects us to be, but also to be what we expect ourselves to be. So going on that topic, whether you subscribe to these titles or not, again, feel free to jump in. Wife, mother, daughter, sister, aunt. We have so many titles and so many roles that we end up losing ourselves in them. And that is a huge one for me. And it's not fair and it's not right when you become overwhelmed. So we can start talking about that in society. We can start talking about the negativity that a lot of women face when they get overwhelmed with those roles. Where would you like to start? I'm kind of open for any of them.
I would really like to start with where it all starts, which is family, right?
Okay,
so, for example, my mom was an entrepreneur. She owned multiple businesses. My dad owned businesses with her and then worked for other people. And it was ingrained very early. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, so lots and lots of girls going on there. And it was ingrained very early that, you work yourself into the ground and you must do this and you must do this and you must do this. Like, God forbid you order takeout. That was only on special occasions. You, as a proper mom, had to make every aspect of every meal and grow it yourself and this and that, plus work your jobs. And my mom suffered from ulcers. She had migraines. She's not a nice lady. Like even now that she's older and all of us are grown and moved on many years ago, there's no joy in her world. And she had 13 siblings. And I saw that pattern with all the women, like none of them were willing to choose past that model. So I ended up being a real black sheep of the family because I was like, I ain't doing any of this. Like I'm not a good cook. My kids used to cry when my husband would travel for work if he didn't pre-make the meals to microwave because that's how bad of a cook I am. True story, burnt boiled potatoes. My kids bring it up all the time when I meet someone new. Do you know my mom burns potatoes? Yes, I do. But it's really when you have that imprinting and then you step into your career, basically your personal life and your work life, it's 2 full-time jobs. because of having to shift those roles. So for me, it's about balance and health. And how do I get there the easiest? My belief system is the more money we can create, the more freedom we get. Why? Because I can hire the cleaning lady. I can hire the food delivery service. I can hire someone to look after my lawn. I can hire someone to do my laundry. And then I have time for me and for my kids and for my spouse. So to me, that's a win. But does that mean that I am a terrible mom, a terrible wife? Am I a horrible homemaker? Am I, do I have to become the B word in business to make it happen? Am I now greedy? Am I now, right? And I disagree with all of that. It's building a life that works for me. I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I used to work 70 in architecture. When I owned my healing center, right? I owned a health and wellness center for 10 years. And at its peak, we had 32 therapists. I was the most unhealthy one there because of the belief system of I'm in a healing center, so I have to help my team heal, which meant zero time for me and even less for my family. So then I shifted it all because it's just the bloody title and the role and the obligations, which are crap. Name one person that that follows those titles and roles that is actually happy. I have yet to meet one.
None. And segueing off that, I know I shared this video with you, and I will share it in the comments once we're done. There is a social media content creator and a comedian that we both follow and we both enjoy. A lot of you will know one of her videos of Pamela Pumpkin over Halloween. She did a video, and I'm going to paraphrase what she said, and it's not going to be word for word, so I apologize. But she was talking about, is everybody okay? Like, is everybody just okay? And she was crying because she was not okay. And she was talking about all the things that she was doing to try to make herself feel better and to try to be better, and they just weren't working. And they got me thinking, and I watched that video and I cried when I watched that video because it works a lot to do with what I do in business, right? And that's the identity. When we're children, like you said with your mom, right? And all of her sisters, you create this belief system of what your life should be like or is going to be like based on what you see, what you experience, what you're taught, right? So when we're kids, we think, okay, well, I'm Melissa when I'm a teen, right? Even my own daughters, I've got all four of my kids. As they hit that teen stage, it's who am I? What do I want? Speaking of, as they're laughing, what do I want? What do I like? Who am I really, right? And they go through all these changes on all these stages, and they have to create the ability to think for themselves and to create their own life, but it's a struggle, right? And as they do that, so you think you get into your late teens, early 20s and figure out who you are. Now, if you're going by societal standards, you then get into a relationship and you become a wife. Now, instead of just being Melissa, I'm now Tom's wife. So part of my identity is chipped away. And I have to focus so much attention on being Tom's wife and making sure that Tom is healthy, happy, fed, all of these other things, right? While still taking care of myself and my home. Then you have kids, and then you become mom. And this goes for men too, so please don't think we're singling out women. It is just, this episode is about women. But then you become a mom, and it's like, hey, now I'm his mom, her mom, their mom, whatever. Now you're mom, and instead of now taking care of yourself, you're now taking care of your partner, and you're taking care of your children. And where do you come in? Not only that, you have to be a provider in all of that, right? You're providing sustenance, you're providing cleanliness and money, right? Finances to support this family, because not everybody out. You can use the one downstairs. Sorry, she's got a bathroom phobia and only likes to use mine. So I told her she could use the other bathroom because there's 3. So then you have kids, and then you become like this, super woman, because now you've got to put all this together, and then add on to that. So then if your children get sick, if there's diagnoses, if there's, struggles, financial struggles, work struggles, mental health, physical health, whatever that may be, Now you feel bad and now you feel stressed out because, oh my God, like I have to fix this too. And then you've completely lost yourself in that entire thing. My business is finding yourself, right? It's finding who you are. And that's just it, is making time for yourself, is figuring out, okay, what does my life look like for me? Not for my husband, not for my kids, not for my parents who are not in the picture now. Who am I? And it's a constant battle for a lot of people.
Yes, I agree. Like my favorite line is that I tell my coaching clients, the people that I work with, is if it was for you, just for fun, tell no one, what would you do? Just to shift that perspective. Like, you know, what I find is that I noticed a while ago that because I closed my clinic down and I've moved into, you know, our home to do my coaching through and all of that, is that as my kids come home one by one, they come in verbal diarrhea for about 20, 30 minutes their entire day. I'm not allowed to comment, not allowed to ask, not allowed to tell them my day. So I get 2 of those. Then my spouse comes home and does that. And not one person ever says, how was your day? Anything exciting happen for you? Like they could care less. So we're also the sounding board. We carry all the emotional stress of everything. Then if we become entrepreneurs, we're going to also carry the emotional stress of our team and all the clients that come through the doors and all of that. And it's just crushing. Like no gratitude journal is going to dig you out of that mess. Or chanting or crystals or whatever, because I've tried it all. Right? It's just what's going to work for you. So I always laugh and say to a lot of people, I lie a lot. Right? Here's what I lie about. I'm in meetings when actually I'm going for a walk. I can't help you tonight because I have something going on with my kids, so that I don't have to assist other family members. Like that's because if I say to them, no, I'm taking a me break or a mental health day or time for me, other women and men, but I find this with women especially because they're so heavily ingrained that we must do it all. It doesn't compute and they try to railroad over that boundary you put down. But if they think that you're swamped and overwhelmed, then you're speaking their language and they'll back off. So again, that's for me, just for fun, tell no one. If that's what they need to hear as a way to design the life that works for me, then that's what I choose.
Oh, for sure. I'm a pretty honest person. I'm not gonna lie. I very rarely lie, but there are times where I'm just like, I'll make plans with somebody, and then I'm like, no. As soon as I'm done making the plans, I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right. And any possible, like, I don't like winter driving. Of course, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, so winter is a given. But I don't like winter driving, so I won't go out as often in the winter. There's different reasons or excuses or little white lies that, you know, make it a lot easier. But at the same time, so there actually, I'm gonna backtrack for a minute. There was something that you mentioned about building finances for your freedom, right? And I 100%, 1000% agree with that. But for somebody who is in that position, but isn't in the mindset or isn't in the work yet to get them there, we should probably talk about ways to find that freedom without needing the finances to do it, right?
There's a lot they can do around that. Like if it depends on your skill set and what you've got, like you can do some bartering back and forth to get you going, right? Like if you say, for example, can make amazing pies, I would buy them. But I love to eat, can't cook. But you know what I mean? Like there's ways that you can do stuff for other people that will shift it across. What needs to occur though, is you need to be very clear on what I call the deal and deliver. So it is, you will do this, I will do this. So I'm going to use an example from the healing industry. So I've been working as a therapist since 2002. And what happens a lot in clinics is people will swap. Like I'll come to you for a body talk session and I'll give you a massage. And I became very clear on the deal and deliver that I will do this session for you, but during my massage, you do not bring up your session. Like you shut up. because otherwise it's not an exchange.
Yeah.
So especially when I was doing intuitive readings, people always wanted to go first for their reading. And then I'd be on the massage table and they'd still ask me questions for another hour. And I would leave more wound up than I would leave released. So you can definitely barter. For me, it doesn't work because I've had a lot of experiences with other therapists where it didn't work. But very, very clear on the deal and deliver. And you also have to be willing to say, I'm sorry, that was not part of the deal. And I say that a lot to people. I'm sorry, that wasn't part of the deal. And they may get offended. Well, that's okay. That's their emotions. I'm not responsible for their emotions, just for mine. And mine is that wasn't part of the deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And to expand on that, you don't need to have, and I tell this to my husband all the time, because my husband is very much finances or freedom, right? And I'm like, not always. Okay. Not always. Even if you don't have the finances, you can still find the freedom. So, talking to your partner and saying, you know, I need an hour or half an hour or even 20 minutes to myself to do X, Y, and Z. Or, once a week, can you please make dinner if they're capable of making dinner? Mine is iffy on that one too. So just, you know, asking for help from those around you and those in your immediate family. I had a friend once tell me that my kids doing chores was not necessarily chores. It was a responsibility because they're part of that family, right? They live in the house. They make a mess in the house. It is their responsibility as much as it is mine to clean and take care of the house. So in wording it like that, you're not asking for help in the sense that you can't do it. You're making sure that the rest of the people in your family and in your household are also taking responsibility for their own areas, right? And their own lives, and allowing you to take back a little bit more of yours. Because again, women just don't do that.
Absolutely. There was a group here on my street. My street here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada is fascinating because we're all entrepreneurs. And so the women who also own businesses had this kid swap night. And what that meant was you would take their kids and they would take that hour and just do whatever, whether it's with their partner or alone or with other girls. But it was blocked out that Thursday night, this person had the kids, Wednesday night, this person had the kids, you know, kind of thing, so that every week people got breathing room. And that was because there was nowhere else for those female entrepreneurs to support one another, and needing that break, needing that downtime. Now that will work also for even stay-at-home moms, whatever, but it's finding people who, again, the deal and deliver is a true 50-50. Then it works like a dream. Works like a dream, right? And then you also build that relationship where if there is an emergency, you have someone you can rely on, right? Where this just happened, I need to do this, this, and this. And they're like, frozen dinner on its way, or I'll come get your kids, or whatever. That happens a lot on the street. Now the kids are older. Now we make the older kids look after the younger kids. Like, you know, I'll say to my daughter, take mom's car, go over, grab these kids, bring them over, like blah, blah, blah. And you get to play with them, right? Because I'm going to do this. But it's really truly supporting instead of judging, right? Instead of going, well, if she had her crap together, maybe this way. No. Doesn't matter what's gone on in the past, how she got there. What do we need to do to come up with a solution right now so that they can breathe and recenter and regroup, because one day I might need it. Yeah.
Building a community. Mm-hmm. Building a community. And like you said at the beginning of the video, women especially don't build that community. We break it down, right? And that's so devastating. Well, you know, and I call it situational shaming, right? If somebody and it's huge for celebrities, people in the media, anybody who's high profile in the media, can turn around and say, well, I'm not happy. And then other women, especially, or other people will come in and say, well, why aren't you happy? Look at everything you have.
Right.
And you're like, that's not the point though. Like, it's not. We need to, as women, build each other up and help each other out and create that that sense of community and that sense of camaraderie, where we all band together and say, enough is enough. I'm allowed to be who I want to be and do it the way that I want to do it without your input, right? I just want your support.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of my friends do that. Oh, it's, yeah.
Well, and for me, my whole lens is, how do I get free time for me? Like, how do I keep my personal time sacred? Like, I protect it like crazy. So we were talking before we got on camera about fundraising, and I was laughing and saying, I don't do fundraising the way the schools want to do fundraising. For me, I'm like, how much money do we need? And I'll come up with a different solution. So even, last year with COVID, the Girl Guides were expected. They were told how many cases they had to sell each. And we had to pre-purchase those cases. And then that way the Girl Guides wasn't liable for what happened for us to get rid of those cookies, so that there was no COVID issues on them, which is fine, whatever, how it needed to work. So I was laughing because I'm like, okay, so I just went and bought the 2 cases, stuck them in my freezer, and everybody got 2 boxes of Thin Mints at Christmas. Like, I was not going to, they're like, oh, you can advertise on Facebook. I am not spending hours selling a $5 box of cookies, because that chews away at that time that I get for me, that I get for my family, that I get to chill out and recharge. Those just became Christmas gifts. And I assure you, not one person was mad. They're like, yes, Thin Mints. Right? So it's like, how do you do that? Like, I have this friend, she's amazing. And I know I talk a lot about money, but that's a lot of the money mindset stuff that I work with my people on. And I remember her saying, we were having brunch one day, and I was talking about these rescue dogs and whatever that both of us had gotten. And she said, oh, I just look at it this way. I'll just throw enough money at it till the problem goes away. And I started giggling, and I'm like, I love that perspective. And then what I added to it was, what would it take to make enough money, to throw enough money at any issue that comes my way, that it becomes a non-issue, right? Yeah. And then different ideas will bubble up. And I thought, how many women would be so much more empowered if they could just ask that question too? What would it take to make the money to solve this? What would it take to make the money to do this? And when my kids were younger and they'd be like, Mom, we want to go here. And I go, okay, Mom will teach a workshop. And my husband used to get mad. And I'm like, why not? Why can't I just go make money like that? Why does it have to be 9 to 5, only 2 weeks off per year? Got to take home work and work on it for free when the kids go to bed or while the kids are awake and I don't get to see them. That life doesn't work for me. That's a no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, what, for anybody watching or catching the replay, it's not, for some of you, you may be sitting there questioning how that's possible for you. I can tell you 100%, and I'm going to tell you this honestly, and you might not like it, but until you take your emotions out of the outcome, you're not going to get it. You're not going to find that solution until you take your emotions out of there. When you are, so this is more for anybody who's feeling stuck or financially unable to get there. When you have such negative emotions, like I can't, or I won't, or desperation, or anything along those lines, you're not going to see the bigger picture in front of you. You're not going to see the multitude of options available to you because you're so overwhelmed and so congested with those negative emotions.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I was just talking with a person here a little while ago who has been told they need to do cuts in their business. And it's very tricky because the business they have, it's a very specific training. Like, it's not easily found. And even when they have the base level training, it takes, I think they said up to 2 years to get them to the level that they need to be. And they so desperately don't want to let people go because it's COVID and families and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, it's just business. And I said, I know that sounds very cold, but if it was just business and you were looking at the health, mental health, physical health, productive health of your team, which 5 would you release? And then all of a sudden it was like, bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, there you go. Now we know that it's those. Now you need to figure out how to handle the emotions of your team when they find out that's occurred, the emotions of the people that are being released, and your emotions. That's a different thing that needs to be done. Yeah. But sacrificing 5 to keep 35 employed, right? To me, it's a no-brainer. Like, And if those people have the right mindset, they can find work right away. There's lots of companies that are hiring. It's surprising how many people come to me that cannot find staff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the emotional piece really does affect the bigger picture. Like, don't take a company because you don't want to hurt 5 people.
Yeah.
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 There's always a way out of every negative occurrence. There's always a way out. And you might be feeling, so back to the women's power, right? You might be feeling, I don't like my life, or I'm unhappy, or I'm stressed, or I'm overwhelmed. Acknowledge that you're feeling that way. And I tell every single one of my clients this: the first step to changing your life is acknowledging how you feel. Whether it's negative, whether it's positive, it doesn't matter. You need to acknowledge it. Acknowledge how you feel and then put it aside. So when you put it aside, find a happy place. I was just about to swear there. My happy place is blasting the music in my car with whatever destination in mind. I could be crying, I could be screaming, I could, whatever the music is, I don't care. But that's my happy place. And what it does is it removes my emotions. It calms them and it removes them. It gives them an outlet so that I'm not focused on those emotions of what should I do? Where do I get it? How, like all these 50 million things that are flying through my head, because I'm multi-passionate and have wife, mother, all the roles under my hat. It gets rid of those for a minute and says, okay, Melissa, what do we need to do? Mm-hmm. Right? And then you start thinking of all the possibilities, right? Okay, maybe I can cut this out for a little while. Starbucks, cut out Starbucks, Tim Hortons, because we're Canadian. Cut something out and say, okay, the money that I'm cutting out from that, I can put aside and I can hold on to it. Whatever it may be, you have that capability. But when you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, getting rid of those emotions, acknowledging what they are, and then finding, okay, what do I really want my life to look like? And then start there. Because it just, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I get so frustrated with the fact, and this is why this show is full of passion, because I get so frustrated with how many people are stuck because they don't understand that it's their identity. They've lost their identity. They've lost their ability to say, okay, enough is enough. I want to do this for me. Whether it's reading a book or having a hot bubble bath or drinking a bottle of wine or whatever it may be, or whatever it looks like, taking a walk, like you said, right? Just, you have to make those choices and take those steps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I remember when I decided to get into architecture and design, and my mom said, you don't know how to pick faucets. Well, I couldn't quit laughing because that's not what it is, but it was the underlying belief system there was that's not what women do. Like, it drove her batty that I went and stepped into, at that time, industry that was very much male dominated. Like, when I went to university, there was 150 students at the beginning, 2 were women, and I was one of them. Right. So I can go do whatever I want, and then they were upset that I wasn't staying home with the children when the girls were born. My husband couldn't afford me to be home because I was renovating everything, because I was bored out of my mind. Right. And it's, so it didn't work for me. Or, I got a lot of jabs from my mother-in-law about not cooking. I'm a terrible cook, but in their mind, that was what the woman did. And I'm like, that's such a hard no, to the point where some of the older men in my family would say to me, hey, sweetie, could you go put on a pot of coffee? And I'm like, no, I can't. Now, that's not a feminist, that's a girl's job. No, it's just like, no, I'm over here doing this or doing this or doing this. You want a pot of coffee, sweetie? You go get your own. And they do. But if I felt obligated, then I'd be doing all the stuff that makes me miserable.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. This is the life I want. I've got a fabulous husband who is just like a perfect match. He's like, yeah, he's a fabulous cook. He's great at all this other stuff. It's perfect, right? But it sounds bizarre, but I designed that because, same as what you said about what do I want my life to look like? For me, I'm like, I want a partner that never says no. Now, I don't want a partner that does it all for me, but like when I decided to open the clinic, I didn't ask his permission. I phoned him and said, hey, I signed a lease for 3,000 square feet, right? I didn't ask him permission to quit architecture and design. I said, hey, I took a buyout. I hate working here. And he's like, as long as you're happy, right? So you know where they say happy wife, happy life? Well, it's happy husband too, right? But it's choosing that happiness. And it's okay to change major careers. It's okay to go back to school when you're 30, 40, 50. It's okay to do whatever it takes to get you to that level of happy, because then we show our kids, we show other women it's possible, and we just create a more colorful, delicious community, because we're just going, that doesn't work for me, I'm going to go do this. That doesn't work for me, I'm going to go do this. You're going to do that? Awesome. Good for you. Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. You were talking and then I was like, I had a topic that I was like, oh, bam, there we go. And then I lost it. And now I totally can't remember what it is. Of course this happens, right? And it's going to happen to me every episode. So people just get along with the mojo here. Oh, I see. I can't remember.
Yeah. Let's talk about kids. Right?
Yeah.
Let's throw kids into the mix and how that looks when
Sounds
it
good.
comes to babies being sick, things that need to be happening at school, raising strong, mentally healthy kids. Like, let's chat a little bit about that, because I think that I'm seeing a lot more of that in my coaching and therapy practice, where women are feeling at such a loss because they don't have time for their own mental health, let alone trying to navigate the kids and the Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and all this
exactly.
other.
That's what it was, right? Is if you aren't putting yourself first, you're not teaching your kids to put themselves first. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. They don't, kids just don't. Where do you think kids learn everything from, right? At the beginning of this episode, we talked about kids watching us, right? And if they don't see us putting ourselves first, oh, and that's a good one too. I like to ask people on social media, wherever, is who's first in your life? Who do you put first? My answer always shocks people, and it almost offends people when I tell them what my priority list is. My number one is and always will be myself. I am above my children. I'm above my husband, because if I'm not filling my own cup, I can't fill theirs. Mm-hmm. Now, going down the list, my husband's actually second, not my children, because same goes for me. And I forgot to mention this. I'm first because from the day I'm born until the day I die, I will be my only number one. That is the only constant, is I will be there from birth to death. My husband, potentially, because that's how it's supposed to go, will be there from the day we're married until the day we pass, right? My kids won't. My kids are going to grow up, and it usually starts in their teens, where it's like, oh, mom, leave me alone, or never mind, or they start getting, love interests, and then they start, getting their freedom and move out. And my kids are going to grow up and start a life of their own as fully functioning adults. They're going to leave me behind. And I'm not going to be the needed mummy anymore. And I see a lot of women struggle with that when their kids do move out, is that empty nest syndrome. If I'm putting myself first and always making sure that my needs are being met and my interests are aligned, then when they move out, I'm not lost. Mm-hmm. Same goes for my business. Same goes if my husband ever decided to leave me, or vice versa. I would still know who I am. Absolutely, it's still going to be a crushing blow, but I still know who I am. So I can move forward saying, okay, wallow in self-pity for however long I need. And then I'm going to pull my panties back up and I'm going to do what I need to do, because I still know who I am. I might be different at that point, but that's when I reevaluate and say, okay, what do I need to move forward? And that's huge for women, and especially teaching kids how to do that. You're not my priority. I love you, and I will always love you, and I will always help take care of you. but my job is to teach you how to focus on yourself without me.
Yeah. My daughter had gone through a really rough bout of bullying. And so we've done all kinds of stuff around it, whatever. We're on the up and up with it. And I remember her saying to me once, Mom, I'm not strong like you. And I said, well, I don't want you to be strong like me. I want you to be strong like you. So I said, so what's required for you to become stronger as you? What supports can we put in place? What can you do for yourself? What can I assist you with? What can your dad assist you with? You know, and so it's funny, on Facebook, I posted about these supportive texts, because this bully has ended up now here 3 years later in one of her high school classes, and she was freaking out. And I had made the comment of, well, let's perform a ritual tonight. Do you want to give him anal warts? Yeah, anal warts or shrunken gonads, right? She's like, what? Why? And I go, well, I need to know what supplies to pick up, right? But so for her, when she got home that night, we did have a big full family discussion on what are her options? What could she choose? What could she do? What would she like to choose and do for herself? Not our opinions and that. But it's interesting to watch people's comments and how it triggers some people about, like, a lot of people are like, you shouldn't be joking around like that. And I'm like, I posted it because I thought it was funny. I didn't post it as part of my parenting. And I don't give a flying toot what you think I am as a mom. You either agree or disagree. You can have both. I don't care. But for me, as my family, we always crack jokes and then we get into the meat of it. Right. Yeah. And we do discuss it, but they get to decide how they're going to show up in the world. Right? Like, there's choices she's made that I've disagreed with and have had some consequences. But at the end of the day, as one person used to say, let them be in dangerous situations safely. Right? Yep. So if you want to do this, if you want to do that, you let me know, and here's how I'm going to support you.
Yep.
Right? So that, you know, and I always remind myself, in a year and a half, she's gone to university. Right? I have a year and a half to mentor her as much as I can and show her how to be strong, show her how to say no, show her how to walk away from certain things. Like, you know, I'm not close with my family, like my parents and that, because there was stuff that went on in my childhood. And I've told my kids, you can have whatever relationship you want with them. I'm not. If you want to know why, I'll give you my side. They have their side, but this is how this is going to work, because I won't be involved with toxic relationships.
Yeah.
That's okay. Right. So, and they then get to choose. Right. But it's interesting to watch them navigate toxic relationships in junior high and high school. And I'm like, oh, I'm so proud. Like, they're like, this person said this, so I said this, and I'm no longer sitting near them, or I'll talk to the teacher and tell them I need to be moved to a different area of the room, or I'm going to change classes because this is what's happening in this class, and really advocating for themselves. And I'm like, you girls are so much stronger than I was at that age. How strong are your kids going to be? Like, how much better are your lives going to be because you're doing that now, versus, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And you know what, we're just going to keep quiet. Just let that, you know, that's just how they are. No.
Stand up for yourself. And that's a big question for all our viewers is, what are you teaching your children? Not by what you say, but by what you do. Mm-hmm. Because children watch everything.
Yeah.
You might hide your tears. They know they're there.
I don't.
See, I don't either. If I'm upset, like, my children will come up to me and I'm not going to lie. I'm a volatile person. I get very angry very quickly. For the most part, I've learned how to control. Well, no, not for the most part. I've learned how to control it. And so my kids will come in to me and they'll be like, Mom, I'm like, nope, I am very angry right now. I do not want to take it out on you. So I would ask that you leave me alone until I have the ability to process what is going on in my head. And then I will talk to you. But for the time being, you need to back off. Mm-hmm. And if I'm upset, I will cry in front of them. I will tell them, you know, I will talk to them about finances, right? If our finances are low or whatever, I will talk to them about it, because they're not going to know how to do these things for themselves if we don't show them, because they become, I don't know how many people, I removed my own mother from my life because she's an undiagnosed narcissist, in my opinion. I don't talk to my entire side of the family because she's talked to them and made me the bad guy. And I'm okay with that. Absolutely okay with that. But I also won't let her speak to my children because that's next level toxicity. But my oldest son has a relationship with her. And as much as I didn't want that to happen, he was at an age where I could say, okay, yes, she was there for him when he chose not to talk to me. We had a falling out. We didn't talk for almost 2 years. But she was there for him at that time. And I'm appreciative of that. I might not like her, but at the same time, I remember him coming up to me and we were talking, and my mother-in-law made a comment about, I'm sure she regrets things. He said, no, she does not. I said, as far as I'm concerned, she's either the victim or the savior. There is no nothing there, right? Like that's it, those are the only two roads. And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, like, oh my God, he sees it, right? And that was the end of that, right? And like I said, I will never disillusion his relationship with her. That was his choice. Same with his own father, right? Because my husband is not his dad. You have the choice to make that for yourself. If you want to keep that relationship, I will be open and honest about my feelings, but that's not to change yours, right? But I don't know how many times at 38 years old, I sit here and say, God, I sound like my mother. Or, oh, that reminds me of my mother. And I'm disgusted, right? Because I don't like my mother. I want nothing to do with her. But at the same time, how many of us have actually said that? I sound like my mom, or I sound like my dad, and then you sit there and you're like, what is going on? Like, no, right? It doesn't matter how much you love your parents. As soon as you have the thought in your head that I sound like them or I'm acting like them, you're like, whoa, right? So to all our viewers, ask yourself, the way you are right now, is that how you want your children to be? Because that's one of the most powerful parenting questions you can ask yourself. Am I showing them through myself how to be a good human being, or how to be respectful of themselves and take care of themselves? If the answer is no, reach out to us because we can help. But ask yourself those questions.
Yeah. It's interesting, like as my kids are growing up and fumbling and falling down, as am I, we do all our lives. It's interesting where, especially my oldest, she will get very upset. And then she'll go, well, Mom, I don't want you to hate me. And I'm like, where would you have ever gotten that? Like, I don't even tell my kids I'm disappointed in them. I'm like, what else could you have chosen there? Right? Like what, did that work for you? Or this turned out really good. What are the steps you took to make it good so that you can repeat it? What are the steps that you took that you think didn't catch that? And it was interesting because she got busted smooching and I could not quit laughing. But she was embarrassed. She's like, I didn't want you to see me kissing a boy. And I'm like, why? Like, you're, this age, this is what happens. And I said, just, be aware of your surroundings, your environment, what's going on, like be smart about it. But to deny those feelings, that would be foolish. And I will never make a woman feel bad at any age for intimacy. Right. Or whatever. So she goes, oh, well, so-and-so at school got caught and this is what they did to her and all of that. And I said, where did you ever think I was that kind of parent? She's like, okay, you're not. And what's interesting is we end up with a lot of teenagers at our house and we have like these really deep conversations at the kitchen table where my kids are like, Mom, can you please stop talking to my friends? I'm like, they're asking me questions. And they're like, we know, but we can't tell them to stop asking you questions. And I'm like, but I see it as, if they're willing to ask and there's knowledge I have, I will share it because maybe they don't get that at home. Right. So I don't see it as parenting someone else's kid. I'm like, maybe you're not willing to have those conversations. So, as women, if we were willing to have any conversation at all with anybody, how much more empowered would the people around us be? How much more empowered would we be? How much more freedom would everybody get if we were willing to be those kind of women, those true leaders in whatever level where people can come and talk to you, and they can talk to you about anything. I think that's also part of how we design our life. Are we willing to have those conversations? Are we willing to talk about it? Are we willing, like, yes, there's lots that my teenagers disagree on with me. That's okay. We can have the conversation. They still get to choose them. I still get to choose me. And I tell them that. I'm like, you get to choose for you. I get to choose for me. And sometimes that's not going to mix. That's okay. Right? Won't stop loving you. Right? Won't stop supporting you. And that's same with female friends. There's times where, I'm blessed with great female friends where we will have very heated conversations and be banging on the table. And then the next day we go for brunch. Right? Like, yep. What would it be like if women could have those conversations and then not hate that bitch for 20 years because she disagreed with me? Instead, we're like, cool. We got that off our chest and now we're just going to go hang out.
Yeah. Right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it needs to change you. And that, I think, is the biggest lesson in this video is women need to take back their power of being who they are. And one of the main things that women are, it's underrated because not enough people understand unconditional love, right? Women are capable of levels of unconditional love that are astronomical. It is so ridiculous. But because society has told us we have to be certain ways, we've lost a lot of that unconditional love. And I think society in general has lost that unconditional love. It's not what it used to be. So I really hope this video brings it back, is unconditional love of yourself is acknowledging, okay, this doesn't work for me. And making it so that you're strong enough to say, okay, this might not work for me. Other people might not like me changing this, but that's okay because it's for me. It's not for them. I'm not going to be Melissa for them. I'm going to be Melissa for me, for what I need. Otherwise, you're just going to make the rest of your life what it is now.
True.
Absolutely. All right. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say on this topic?
No, I think it's just mostly, you know what, really ask yourself with everything that you do for the next 10 days, does this actually work for me? And if not, what else is possible here that I've never considered, right? Those are the two things that I ask myself all the time when I'm not feeling like I'm on fire every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Remove those emotions. Before you ask that question. One of the best ways that I found, and it was actually, what is her name? Gabrielle, she's a spiritual guru. I can't remember what her name is. Gabby Bernstein.
Yes.
Came up with the 15-second breathing technique. And I tell everybody to do this because it is so, it's not spiritual. It's literally just breathing. And it is the most relaxing thing that you can do really quickly. It's 15 seconds, right? And all you do is you count to 5 while inhaling, you count to 5 while holding, and then you count to 5 while exhaling. And the release in your body is so amazing. Just do that. Get rid of those emotions. Just relax your body and your mind to the point where you are not overwhelmed with those emotions and say, what do I really want to change? And do it, because nobody else is going to do it for you. So for anybody watching, for anybody watching, we have opportunities for you to connect with us on the website. I know that Tracy's and my information will be on the website. It'll be on the Facebook page, the YouTube page, the podcast, everywhere. You will be able to find our information to connect with us if you have any questions. We are both tagged in these videos, so if you want to comment on the video and ask any questions, feel free. The other thing is, if you have a topic that you'd like to talk about or you would like to hear about on the show, you can become a co-host. You can send up ideas and I can go do some research and find somebody knowledgeable to share them, or you can sponsor the show. So those are the 3 options we have: guest co-host, topic, initiative, or sponsorship. So that is what the show is all about, giving you something to talk about so that you can take conversations away from these and make yourself a happier, healthier life. Because that's what we need to do.
Awesome.
So I am going to say adios and goodbye. I don't know if I should have said that. I like saying that. I always come up with random words when I'm in the mode. So I'm going to sign off, but Tracy, is there anything else you would like to share? Your farewell, anything else?
Ladies, I just think you should go out there and choose it and do it. You will not regret it. Yeah.
And even if you do, you'll learn from it.
You learn from it. Tweak, polish, move on. Yeah.
What was it? Churchill, what was his name? Winston Churchill. I think it was him that said, failure is just the stepping stones to success. And that's all it is. Because I don't know how many times I've failed and I got up and I did it again. It's like riding a bike or riding a horse. You got to get right back up. So anyway, lots of love, everybody. I hope that you found some value in this and you can take this away and start having those conversations. Because again, that's what giving you something to talk about is all about, giving you topics that you can take home to your loved ones, your friends, your family. Start having those conversations that are going to bring you happier and healthier. Reach out, comment, follow us on Facebook. So lots of love. Thank you so much, Tracy, for joining me. I love this episode. And I look forward to guest hosting with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was lots of fun.
Bye.